Gross anatomy of the kidney. The kidneys are pair of excretory organs which are part of the urinary system, with their main function being production of urine. The synonyms used are renal for the vessels supplying the kidneys and nephros for the syndromes associated with the kidneys. These are retroperitoneal structures, that is, the anterior surface is covered by peritoneum, whereas the posterior surface lies on the posterior abdominal wall on either side of the vertebral column in depressions known as the paravertebral gutters. They extend from the upper border of the 12th thoracic vertebra to the body of the 3rd lumbar vertebra. The right kidney is slightly lower than the left kidney. This is due to presence of the liver on the right side, which pushes the kidney slightly downwards. The left kidney is longer, narrower, and is nearer to the midline as compared to the right kidney. The long axis of the kidneys is directed downwards and laterally. That is, the upper end or the upper pole of the kidneys is nearer to the midline than the lower end. The transverse axis of the kidneys is directed laterally and backwards. The kidneys rest on the sloping paravertebral gutters formed by the muscles. The gross features of the kidney. It is bean-shaped and consists of two poles or two ends, two borders and two surfaces. The two poles are the upper pole, which is broad and rounded, and the lower pole, which is pointed. The two borders are the lateral border is smooth and convex, whereas the medial border is concave, and there is a depression in the middle of the medial border known as the hilum. This is the area where structures enter and leave the kidney. The two surfaces are the anterior surface being irregular and convex, and the posterior surface being flat. The site determination of the kidney is always done by examining the arrangement of structures in the hilum. From anterior to posterior, the arrangement is called VAP arrangement. That is, anteriormost in the hilum lies the renal vein, then lies the renal artery, and posteriormost lies the renal pelvis, which is the upper expanded part of the ureter. Sometimes, however, a branch of the renal artery or a tributary of the renal vein may pass behind the renal pelvis. This arrangement helps us to differentiate between the anterior and posterior surfaces of the kidney. However, to differentiate between the superior and inferior poles, the renal pelvis is identified, and it is always directed downwards as it is continuous with the ureter. Hence, the site determination of the kidney or identifying the poles, borders and surfaces is done with the help of the hilum and the structures present in the hilum. First, the borders are identified as the medial border contains the hilum. Then, the structures in the hilum are examined and the arrangement from anterior to posterior, that is the VAP arrangement, is identified to differentiate between the anterior and posterior surfaces. And finally, the direction of the renal pelvis identifies the superior and inferior pole of the kidney. Other structures present at the hilum may include the lymphatics, nerves, and the perinephric fat. The surface marking of the kidneys. On the anterior surface, the kidneys are marked with the help of the transpyloric plane. The hilum of the right kidney lies slightly below this plane, and on the left hilum lies slightly above this plane, and the hilum is then marked 5 cm from the midline. The upper pole of the kidney lies roughly at the midpoint between the xiphisternum and the transpyloric plane and is marked as 3.5 cm from the midline. The lower pole lies approximately 6.5 cm from the midline. Hence, the upper pole 3.5 cm from midline, the hilum 5 cm and the lower pole 6.5 cm from the midline. On the posterior surface, the marking is done with the help of Morris parallelogram or Morison's parallelogram. Two horizontal lines are drawn at the level of the 11th thoracic and the 3rd lumbar spine. Then two vertical lines are drawn at approximately 2.5 cm and 9 cm respectively from the midline, and the kidneys are drawn in between these parallel lines. The right kidney being slightly lower than the left one, and the longitudinal axis of the kidneys running downwards and laterally, with the upper pole closer to the midline and the lower pole away from the midline. The coverings or the capsules of the kidney. These are 4 in number, and their arrangement from within outwards is the true capsule, also called the fibrous capsule or the renal capsule. It is formed by the condensation of the fibrous stroma of the kidneys. It is a thin shiny membrane which closely invests the kidney and the renal sinus. It is normally stripped off from the kidney surface easily. However, it may become adherent in certain renal conditions like chronic nephritis. Outer to the true capsule is a layer of fat known as the perinephric or the perirenal fat. This layer of adipose tissue is thickest along the borders and fills up the renal sinus. Outer to it lies the most important layer, that is called the false capsule or the facial capsule or the renal fascia. It is also known as the fascia of Geroda. It is mainly formed by the condensation of the extraperitoneal connective tissue around the kidneys. And the outermost is again a layer of fat which is called the paranephric or the pararenal fat. This is mainly formed by the retroperitoneal fat which fills up the paravertebral gutters. It is more abundant on the posterior aspect and the lower pole of the kidney. The most important layer is the renal fascia or the fascia of Geroda. Previously, it was considered to consist of two layers, an anterior layer called the fascia of Tolt and a posterior layer called the fascia of Zucker-Kandel. However, now it is considered as a single multilaminated structure which is fused posteromedially with the fascia covering the psoas major and the quadratus lumborum muscles. From here, it extends anteromedially and divides into two layers, an anterior thin layer called the perirenal fascia and a posterior thick layer called the lateral conal fascia. These two layers laterally fuse with each other and are continuous with the parietal peritoneum. Medially, however, the anterior layer or the perirenal fascia continues and becomes continuous with the similar layer of the opposite side, whereas the posterior layer, that is the lateral conal fascia, is attached to the lumbar vertebra and the intervertebral discs. A median septum, fascial septum, connects the anterior and posterior layers to each other across the hilum. Thus, it prevents the spread of perirenal infection from one side to the other. Superiorly, the two layers enclose the suprarenal gland and remain open. On the right side, the anterior layer blends with the coronary ligament of the liver, and thus the perirenal space is continuous with the bare area of the liver. On the left side, the anterior layer fuses with the gastrophrenic ligament, and thus on the left side, the perirenal space is continuous with the subphrenic extraperitoneal space. Posterior layer on both the sides is continuous with the subdiaphragmatic fascia. Inferiorly, the two layers do not fuse, they enclose the ureter and then become continuous with the extraperitoneal connective tissue of the iliac fossa, and the posterior layer becomes continuous with the fascia iliaca. The supports of the kidney. They are mainly provided by the coverings or the capsules of the kidney, especially the renal fascia and the two layers of fat, that is the perirenal and pararenal fat, the renal vessels, and the pressure exerted by the neighboring or adjacent viscera, which is further maintained by the tone of the abdominal muscles. A condition known as nephrotosis or floating kidney, that is a hypermobility of the kidney. This is associated with debilitating conditions in which the fatty capsule around the kidneys is lost. This may lead to inferior displacement of the kidneys, which may be accompanied by kinking of the ureters and signs of urinary obstruction. Such kidneys move up and down, however, they do not move from side to side within the renal fascia. Perinephric abscess, collection of pus in the perinephric space, that is between the true and the false capsule of the kidney. This abscess is unable to cross to the opposite side due to the presence of the medial fascial septum, which closes this space medially. However, the pus may descend along the ureters and may reach the pelvic cavity. The relations of the kidney. The posterior relations of the kidney, it is not covered by peritoneum, that is, it is retroperitoneal, and in the upper part, the two kidneys are related to the diaphragm, its two ligaments, that is the medial and lateral arcuate ligament, and the ribs. The right kidney, being lower, is related to the 12th rib, whereas the left kidney is related to the 11th and 12th ribs. In the lower part, the kidneys are related to three muscles. From medial to lateral side, longitudinally arranged muscles are psoas major, quadratus lumborum, and transversus abdominis. In between these muscles, that is between the quadratus lumborum and transversus abdominis, pass three nerves accompanied by vessels inferolaterally, that is downwards and laterally. From above downwards, they are the subcostal nerve, which is accompanied by the subcostal vessels, the iliohypogastric nerve, and the ilioinguinal nerve. To summarize the posterior relations of the kidneys, in the upper part, the diaphragm along with the medial and lateral arcuate ligaments and the ribs. On the right side, the 12th rib, and on the left side, the 11th and the 12th rib. This is the only difference in the posterior relations of the kidneys on the right and left side. In the lower part, three muscles from medial to lateral, psoas major, quadratus lumborum, and transversus abdominis, and three nerves from above downwards running downwards and laterally, subcostal nerve accompanied by the vessels, iliohypogastric nerve, and ilioinguinal nerve. The renal angle. It is the angle present between the lower border of the 12th rib and the lateral border of erector spinae muscle. It overlies the posterior surface of the lower part of the kidney. The renal pain is felt at the renal angle as a dull ache. The renal colicky pain, usually due to renal stones, shoots or starts from the renal angle and extends downwards and forwards to the groin, typically called the loin to groin pain. The perinephric abscess may produce a swelling and cause tenderness in the region of the renal angle. The surgical approach to the kidney posteriorly or retroperitoneally is done through an oblique incision which starts in the renal angle and extends downwards and forwards. The false renal angle. In case the 12th rib is short or sometimes absent, the 11th rib may be mistaken for the 12th rib, and the surgeon may mistakenly give an incision in this false renal angle, thereby entering the pleural cavity. Hence, counting of the ribs is always done from the sternal angle above downwards, never done from below upwards. The relations of the anterior surface. The anterior relations vary on the right and the left side. The right kidney is related to 5 structures. The suprarenal area, it is related to the upper pole and upper part of the medial border of the right kidney. The duodenal area, along the medial border related to the second part of duodenum. The hepatic area. The upper 3/4 of the anterior surface is related to the right lobe of the liver. The colic area is related to the lateral part of the lower lobe, and here lies the right colic flexure or the hepatic flexure. And the jejunal area is formed in the medial part of the lower pole, and it is related to the coils of jejunum. Out of these 5 areas, 2 are peritoneal, that is the hepatic and jejunal area, which are separated by the cavity of the greater sac. Coming to the left side, it is related to 6 structures anteriorly. The suprarenal area lies at the upper pole and upper part of the medial border. The splenic area, the upper 2/3 of the lateral border, and the adjoining anterior surface are related to the visceral surface of the spleen. The gastric area, it is a triangular area which is related to the posterior superior surface of the stomach. The pancreatic area, it is a rectangular area which runs across the hilum and is related to the body of pancreas accompanied by the splenic artery. The colic area lies in the lower part of the lateral border related to the left colic flexure or the splenic flexure, and the jejunal area here is large and lies in front of the lower pole. It is related to the duodenojejunal flexure and the coils of jejunum. Out of the 6 areas, 3 are peritoneal. The gastric area is separated by the lesser sac, whereas the splenic and jejunal areas are separated by the greater sac. To summarize the anterior relations, on the right side 2-3-2, 2 glands, that is the liver and the suprarenal gland, 3 parts of GIT, duodenum, colon and jejunum. Out of these, 2 are peritoneal relations, that is the hepatic and the jejunal areas. On the left side, it is 3-3-3, 3 glands, that is suprarenal, spleen and pancreas, 3 parts of GIT, stomach, colon and jejunum, and 3 areas have a peritoneal relation: gastric separated by lesser sac and splenic and jejunal separated by the greater sac. The gross internal structure of the kidney. The renal sinus. It is a space or a cavity which extends into the kidney from the hilum. Its walls are lined by the renal capsule, and it mainly contains branches of the renal artery, tributaries of the renal vein, the pelvis of the ureter, major and minor calyces, nerves and fat. There may be 2 to 3 major calyces and 7 to 13 minor calyces. The inner darker part is called the medulla. It is reddish brown in color and contains 8 to 18 conical masses known as renal pyramids of Malpighi. These pyramids are conical in shape with the base directed outwards, and their apex points towards the minor calyces and indents them, known as the renal papilla. The outer pale part is called the cortex. It is reddish in color and granular in appearance. The parts which cap the bases of the renal pyramids are known as the cortical arches or the cortical lobules. In between these lie columns which extend and dip in between the pyramids and extend up to the renal sinus. These are known as renal columns of Burton. The lobe of the kidney. One pyramid, renal pyramid, which is capped with the overlying cortical arch, forms a lobe of the kidney. The arterial supply of the kidneys. Each kidney is supplied by a renal artery, which is a branch of the abdominal aorta arising at the level of the second lumbar vertebra. In 30% cases, accessory or supernumerary renal arteries may be present. These are also branches of the abdominal aorta and may enter at the hilum of the kidney, or sometimes they may enter at the pole of the kidney, usually the lower pole. In that case, they are known as aberrant renal arteries. The renal arterial system. The special feature or a peculiarity of the renal arterial system is that it is a high pressure system. This is mainly because the renal artery is very large compared to the size of the kidney and is a direct branch of the aorta maintaining high pressure. The branching of the renal artery is always at right angles, further maintaining high pressure. The glomerulus or the plexus in the glomeruli, it is fed and drained by an arteriole. The efferent arteriole is narrower as compared to the afferent arteriole, thus maintaining high pressure in the glomerulus. And two sets of capillaries are connected by the efferent arteriole, thus forming the renal portal system. The subdivision or branching of the renal artery. The renal artery divides into two divisions, anterior and posterior, and these further give rise to 5 segmental arteries. The segmental arteries are: the anterior division divides into 4 segmental arteries: the apical, the upper anterior, middle anterior and inferior segmental arteries. The posterior division continues as the posterior segmental artery. When we look at these arteries, the apical and the lower or inferior segment occupies both the anterior and posterior surfaces, whereas the upper anterior and middle anterior segment are confined to the anterior surface and the posterior segment occupies the posterior surface. The vascular segments, these are based on the distribution of the 5 segmental arteries. The segmental resection of the kidney is possible if the disease is localized to one or more segments, especially the inferior segment. The junction between the anterior and posterior divisions lies along a line at the junction of the medial 2/3 and lateral 1/3 on the posterior surface of the kidney. This is known as Brodel's line. It is a relatively avascular plane which can be used during surgery by the surgeon to explore along this line for renal stones or without any significant hemorrhage. However, it is a relatively avascular plane, not strictly avascular, because tributaries of the renal veins do communicate across this line. The blood supply of the kidney. The renal arteries at the hilum divide into two divisions, anterior and posterior. These two divisions further divide into 5 segmental arteries. The segmental arteries in the renal sinus divide into lobar arteries, one for each renal pyramid. The lobar arteries further subdivide into interlobar arteries which pass through the renal columns on either side of the pyramids. At the corticomedullary junction, the interlobar arteries divide at right angles into 2 arcuate arteries. These arcuate arteries arch over the bases of the pyramids and then divide into a number of interlobular arteries which run at right angles radially into the substance of the cortical arches. The arcuate arteries themselves, without anastomosing with each other, turn into the cortex. From the interlobular arteries arise a number of afferent arterioles which form the glomerular capillary plexus. Arising from this plexus are the efferent arterioles. These efferent arterioles are of 2 types depending upon the site of origin. The cortical efferent arterioles form a peritubular plexus within the cortex around the proximal and distal convoluted tubules, whereas the juxtamedullary efferent arterioles proceed downwards in the pyramid and divide into straight arterioles known as vasa recta, which break up into a capillary plexus around the loop of Henle. Both the peritubular capillary plexus and the juxtamedullary capillary plexus drain into the interlobular veins, which further drain through the arcuate and interlobar veins into the renal vein, which drains into the inferior vena cava. This helps us understand the circulation of blood through the kidneys. The lymphatic drainage of the kidneys. The intrarenal lymphatics travel along the arteries and finally drain into the lateral aortic lymph nodes which lie at the level of origin of the renal artery, that is the second lumbar vertebral level. These intrarenal lymphatics communicate freely with the pericapsular lymphatic plexus which is present in the perinephric fat. Hence, in cases of carcinoma of the kidney, when the kidney is removed, that is nephrectomy is done, the perinephric fat is also removed along with the kidney. The nerve supply of the kidneys is autonomous, that is through sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic fibers travel from the T10, T11, T12 and L1 spinal segments, and they are mainly vasomotor. The parasympathetic travel along the vagus nerve, however their function is not well understood. Both the sympathetic and parasympathetic enter the kidney through the renal plexus. The renal pain, it is due to the stretching of the renal capsule or spasm of the smooth muscle in the renal pelvis. The pain fibers usually travel along the sympathetic nerves, especially along the subcostal nerve, that is T12, and the ilioinguinal nerve, that is L1. Hence, referred pain from the kidney is felt in the lumbar and inguinal region, especially the infraumbilical part of the anterior abdominal wall, extending along the L1 nerve up to the groin, typically called the loin to groin pain. As the kidneys cannot be palpated normally through the anterior abdominal wall, they are palpated bimanually. A patient is asked to lie down in the supine position. One hand is placed posteriorly between the last rib and the iliac crest, and the other hand is placed anteriorly in the lumbar region. The patient is asked to take a deep breath. The inferior pole of an enlarged kidney is felt between the fingers. The stone formation in the kidney. Large stones may be present in the calyces or pelvis of the kidney, taking up the shape of these, known as staghorn stones. The treatment of these large renal stones is through lithotripsy, also known as extracorporeal shock wave lithotripsy. It is a non-invasive procedure in which shock waves are generated outside. They pass through the body tissues and crush the stones into small sand-like particles. These small pieces are then washed out through the urinary passages. The treatment of chronic bilateral renal failure is dialysis or renal transplant. In case of dialysis, a AV fistula, that is arteriovenous fistula, is made at the wrist between the radial artery and the cephalic vein. In case of renal transplant, it has to be kept in mind that the renal arteries are end arteries, and the presence of aberrant or accessory renal arteries in 30% cases makes it important that all arteries of the donor kidney must be anastomosed with the feeding vessel of the recipient kidney. In case of renal transplant, the donor kidney is placed retroperitoneally in the iliac fossa with its hilum parallel to the external iliac vessels. The renal vessels are anastomosed with the iliac vessel of the recipient, and the ureter is implanted into the urinary bladder. The surgical approach to kidneys is usually done posteriorly retroperitoneally. The incision oblique is given starting in the renal angle, usually running downwards and forwards. The following layers are reflected from superficial to deep. These are skin followed by superficial fascia, and then comes the thoracolumbar fascia. The most superficial lies the posterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, deep to it the erector spinae muscle. Then the middle layer of thoracolumbar fascia, and deep to it the quadratus lumborum muscle. And finally, the anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, deep to it lies the fascia transversalis, and then we reach the extraperitoneal fat or the pararenal fat. Hope you found it useful. Thank you and a happy learning.